Okay, good day, people. How are we doing today? I wanted to continue the conversation about living within your means. So, I got a question from the previous video that when is the right time to leave your parents' house? So, this person happens to have a peculiar situation where he's living with a friend but has no real need to leave because he's still single and by himself, and even though they split the bills, but I think he tends to take the bigger chunk of the bill because he's earning more. So he's wondering when will be the best time for him to leave and go be by himself, seeking his own privacy and all of that. And that question is really very interesting. And some might say, oh, if you're old enough, then you should make the move. This person in question is around, I think, 20 something years. I think it's 20 something or thereabout. And I think 27. So is asking when is the right time. Now, in developed world, in developed countries, I think the best time, in fact, people are asked to, by when you're 18, there's already preparation to have you leave home and start your own life. Now, there are few cases where you have people, who are a lot older and still live with their parents. That's very rare. But most of the time, most families prepare to launch their children at the age of 16, 18. And, but in Africa, we have seen cases of, 40 something, 30 something year olds still living with their parents. Now, this is an anomaly because I would say that once you are 30, you should be responsible for yourself. Now, there are cases or there are situations where maybe you're not making enough income, or maybe you're simply not financially buoyant enough to pay your own bills. Now, I will put it this way: living on your own, if you have a clear vision of what you're doing, is very important because having your own space, your own um, privacy, control of your own time. For example, when you live with somebody else, you are at the mercy of that person. That person can decide to bring somebody home that you don't trust, for example, or the person can bring somebody home that is noisy, lacks decorum, and all of that. You know, it even gets worse if the person loves, women and bring all kinds of women to the same house every day. I'm sure that can send you over the fence, you know. So I would say that if you know what you're doing and you're making enough income to back that up, it might be a good thing for you to be by yourself. Now, the measure of income is not so for example, I know a few young people who are making in Nigeria, they're making $2, $3,000, a month from remote work. Those kind of people should, in my honest opinion, be living by themselves, even though not in the major cities. I don't see why you should be spending, you know, a lot of money in Lekki, for example, to because you earn remotely and then you want to live among the big boys. There's really no need for that. But of course, if your work requires that kind of what will I call it, that kind of exposure, then by all means you should knock yourself out. But if that is not the case, then I always advise you to look for somewhere that is safe, very important, and does not have many um, law enforcement harassment like we have in Nigeria. You carry a bag with a laptop, you could just be carried in on the street by the law enforcement agents as a criminal, and that's a big issue. So you want to live in a place that is safe, and also you want to live in a place that is also conducive. In other words, it has all the social amenities that you need. Power, constant electricity is so very important. Internet access, broadband internet access. Thank God for Starlink. I think Starlink makes it a lot easier to live anywhere in Nigeria now, because with your Starlink, you can be connected to the internet at broadband speeds anywhere. So that gives you some form of advantage. But I would say to you, if you're earning a lot of money, then there are certain places you should avoid living, not just for yourself, but because of other people who will see you living life at a certain level that is, of course, distant from all of them. Let me use a personal story. So when I used to live in Bagada, now the area of Bagada where I lived, my car looked to be one of the, you know, high end in that area. And for a long time coming home, I always feel like I had more eyes on me than is necessary. And it's not like I go out often, except maybe when I'm going to church. Other than that, I'm not the type that goes out a lot. I'm always indoors. But every time I drive out, I always tend to feel like there are eyes on me. And that was a problem for me. I stayed there for I think about 2 years, but it was a struggle, which meant that there's certain increases I cannot have. There's certain things I wanted to do that I cannot do because, obviously, the kind of, in fact, there was one person who, there's one person who specifically started saying that he thinks that I am a fraudster because I'm always indoors, but I'm using a very expensive car, and I'm paying, yeah, and the rent is I think 1.2 million per annum. So, and the person lives in the same house, so he pays the same rent. So, I don't know why he feels like because I don't go out every day like he does, that I must be a fraudster. But that is a mindset that a lot of people have. I have a friend whose life was completely ruined because somebody looked at him that you're so young. How do you have this type of car? How do you live in this type of house? And the person wrote a petition to the EFCC, and his life went downhill from there. You know, innocent guy from nowhere, just because somebody in their own estimation thinks that this guy should not be at that level because and that is so sad, very sad. And that happens a lot. That's why you have to, of course, as you grow, you have to be mindful of your environment. You know, if you're living in a place that you're the only one that wears the best clothes, lives in the best house, or drives the best car, you might want to sit down with yourself and move. So for me, I decided I was going to move. I moved to a place where my car became like an embarrassment because there were much better cars, all around me. And when I bought a new car, it was not a big deal. Nobody even cared because there were other cars that were a lot better in the area. And for me, I always say that the moment you get to the point where you begin to need privacy to express your creative abilities. So for me, I'm a loner, so I like to be by myself. I can be by myself a lot and think. I can think. I'm more of a very cerebral person. I can think and think for hours, for days, for weeks. Most of the thing I do come from inside my head. So inside there is a lot of chaos. So for me, I always need a lot of space. Even in my house here, despite the fact that, of course, it is easily accessible, my office has a lock. So when I need to retreat into myself, I will lock myself in and let everybody know that please do not disturb. And that for me is very important. If you're in a place where you're not in control, you don't have the ability to say that. You can't tell the person you're squatting with that please do not disturb. They are going to throw your things out. So the first question is, do you need the privacy right now? If you don't need it, then obviously you should keep enjoying the free accommodation, so to speak. But if you need it, then I would say you should move. And of course, if you're spending more than you will spend if you were by yourself, that's already a cue as well. Because I think most people always assume that once you're making more than them and they're the ones squatting you, then you should be carrying a bigger bill. I don't agree with that, but for me, why should I be carrying more when I can be by myself and spend less? But all depends on you. What are you doing? Do you need that sort of privacy? Or will being by yourself expose you to more vices? If that answer is yes, then just stay where you are. Because the truth of the matter is that being by yourself can also expose you to all sorts, right? So you have to ask yourself, do I have the discipline to control my environment and the things that go on in my environment? If the answer is yes, then by all means, get yourself into a new place. So have a wonderful time and see you on the next video. Thank you.